Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action.
Being seen without losing yourself. Hi, friends. It's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me, and I have my really good friend with me, Pearl Chiarenza. I think I got her last name right. It doesn't look like that when you spell it, though. Anyway, she's like really cool and fun, and we've known each other for a while, and I got to spend time with her at my last retreat, and she was even more of a blast than I knew. So I said, hey, Pearl, come on the show and let's talk about how you can be successful without losing yourself. Because, you know, all of us who are intensely sensitive and empaths, all of us neurodivergent gifted people, we try to overgive all the time. And it's not always just from trauma like some people think, though it could be related to that. It also could be to the fact that we can see potential in others and we see things other people cannot see. So we act as if it's already here and it's not yet. And we tend to lose ourselves and burn out. So Pearl is going to help. That's what she's going to do because she works with people, women, to help them set those boundaries and take care of themselves. We'll get to that later. First, we're going to talk to Pearl about her life. So get your tea. I have mine. Today, I'm drinking chai tea with a little bit of coconut milk in it. So there you have it. So I'm going to enjoy my tea while I listen to Pearl and ask her really fun questions and hear her stories. And I invite you to do the same. So Pearl, welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast. And I hope that you're having a marvelous day.
I am having a marvelous day. I'm so excited to be here finally. And it was, like you said, it was so much fun hanging out with you at the retreat and just having a blast. And if nobody's gone to one of Dianne's retreats before, you have to be in the room because you walk away from there like so empowered. The connection I had back with myself was like what I really walked away with too. And then also the other people that you bring in the room, like they love Dianne, and who is not in love with Dianne and all the things she brings and the gifts she gives the world. So thank you for having me there.
Oh, you're so welcome. So today we're talking about how to be seen in the world without losing ourselves. And so I would like to start off a little bit with asking you to tell a little bit of your story about kind of what you have, what trajectory you've been on and how it is that you've come to be a champion for self-care and healthy boundaries. Like, how did you get here? Because it's a really, really amazing thing to hear about. So will you tell us, please?
I would be honored to. Yeah. So if you had met me about 10 years ago and asked who I was, I would have told you I was a mom, a wife, I was a volunteer, all these titles that, you know, these armors that we put on in the world that I call it. And so that's where I was, because Chuck and I met. I mean, we met, I was 19, 20 years old. I got married not too long after. And the cool thing, I asked him to marry me, by the way. And I saw a good thing and wasn't going to let it get away. And so we tried for 10 years to have kids. And then when we were honored to be able to adopt our oldest, Matthew, I kind of was like, okay, well, I've lived my fun life of my own. Let me just put her on the shelf. And we moved from Virginia to Florida 20 years ago. And so Matt was in fourth grade and then Nate was in first grade. And so I still stepped in that role right away, like joined the PTA, did all these things to get connected with the community, but put me away because that's what I thought. Growing up, like my granny took care of all of us. My mom took care of all of us. So that's what I thought we were supposed to do. It wasn't until I went in my health journey, because when we moved here, I started to put on a lot of weight and I decided to do something about it, that I went into this clinic to start losing weight. And I was in there and I started coaching. I became a coach with the clinic and I started having people come in to see me. And so when I started coaching them, I'd be like, you know, it was a very strict program. Like you couldn't have fruits, you couldn't have fats, you couldn't have carbohydrates. So if you had one thing, it can mess you up for 3 days, according to the program. So you would come in, and if you had that cupcake or whatever, I would say, hey, you know, Dianne, tell me what was going on. Like, what was happening? Like, what led you to make that choice instead of a healthier choice, right? The owner of the clinic, she was completely opposite. She's like, well, you know better not to do that. You felt like you're in the principal's office, right? So she happened to go on vacation one time and I took over her calendar. When she came back, nobody wanted to be on her calendar. So that was the first sign about what was about to happen for me. Then she started asking people, why are you going to Pearl? And they were like, well, because she asked us and she talks to us. And she's like, okay. And so she kind of left it alone. And then I started having clients say, oh my gosh, Pearl, will you talk to my friend? Like, they don't need to lose weight, but the way you approach everything and the mindset, they need somebody to guide them in their life. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm a people pleaser. So sure, why not? I'm not going to say no to you. Let me just go help your friend. I don't even know your friend, but let me show up. So after many, many tea dates, I sat there and I was like, all right, God, what are you telling me? Like, why am I doing this? Because I love the conversation. I love helping people, but this is a lot of work. It's not easy to help somebody like get into their world and understand what's happening, whether it was trauma, whether it was just that they thought they had to do or they didn't have choices. And so I had met a lady, her name was Sandy Lee. And I don't know if you ever met her here, Dianne, but she's from Tampa. And she was doing this identity and destiny course. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to go be this life coach, I need to do it the right way. So I took this 6-week course and I met my friend Shannon in the course. And at the end of 6 weeks, you were supposed to give your I am statement. Well, I gave my I am statement. I am Pearl. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. All the titles were still there. And Shannon's sitting across from me. She's like, where the heck is Pearl? Now, by now, Matt's a rising senior in high school. Actually, he was a senior in high school. So he's getting ready to go off to college in a few months. And Nate was a sophomore. And so I was like, oh my God, you're right. What the heck have I been for 6 weeks? Like, what am I doing? Like, it's like you sat in class, and you didn't do any of the homework, right?
Right.
So I was like, all right, I got to figure this stuff out. So I literally went home and I said to my husband and the boys, I said, all right, I got to figure out who the heck I am. So I'm going to take some time for me when I come home every day. And so if I don't talk to you right away and I'm in the room doing whatever, unless the house is on fire, don't bother me. Dad can take you to the hospital. I'll meet you there. And I started asking myself, and what do I want? Like, what brings me joy? What lights up my heart? And so I started working on that. And I went to go to a network group. And on the way to this network group, on the ground was this beautiful rock. And so I picked up the rock, threw it in my pocket, thought nothing about it. And so I walked in there, and somebody had asked me if I would help a fundraiser for dogs and cats. I love my dogs. I love my boys' cats, but I don't need to fundraise for them. And I literally had my hand, that rock was in my pocket. My hand went across the pocket and I was like, no, I can't do that. And literally just like I said it to you is how I said it to them. And I sat there for a second. I'm like, oh my God, why did you do that, Pearl? That doesn't sound very nice. And all the things in your head, all the saboteurs saying you're mean, you're selfish, all those things as a people pleaser go through your mind. And all of a sudden I sat there and go, oh, well, wait, they're still talking to me. I haven't been struck by lightning. Okay, I can say no and still live. Because we think we can't say no. We think it's going to, oh my God, it's this terrible thing, And so I literally walked out of that network meeting and I made a commitment with this rock. And I don't know where the rock is, but I always have rocks wherever I'm at. I made a commitment to move a rock 3 times a day to say no to something or someone. And if I had not, by the time I got home, I had to text, call, or email somebody that I couldn't do something for them. And it took, probably a good 60 days, 90 days to really step into that. But we as women, we get overwhelmed. And I found that I became stronger in understanding that no is a complete sentence. And you can say it as happy as you say yes, like you won $1 million. Yes. You can become happier because when you're showing up for yourself, you're not overwhelmed. You're not stressed out. You are not waking up in the middle of the night going, I didn't email, I didn't do the cupcakes, I didn't do all that stuff. And then when that happens, you start becoming empowered to do things. So my coaching up leveled. It was right around COVID. It was really when I started stepping into this. So I started doing things online, started speaking, started writing. And then the cool thing was I was walking into rooms and like, so what's so different about you, Pearl? Like, did you cut your hair? Did you lose weight? I'm like, nope, I'm just doing the radiant glow up of no. And then the great thing that I love about this is the O. This is what I call my SHERO method. It's the O, it stands for original. When I came into this world as a little girl, I always thought I wanted to be a teacher. In high school, I went and helped teach at an elementary school. I jokingly say, I didn't get to do it right away because my parents had no way to understand what college is all about. But if I didn't have them when they were little, I have the women now, and I get to be that original teacher that I've always wanted to be, and to share the message that you can say no as happy as you say yes.
So you started out completely lost.
Yeah.
And didn't really have an identity of who Pearl, the woman, was. It was by the definitions of all the external things, which I think is common for a lot of people. And I think it happens for men too, where it's all about their work or this or that or the other thing. And it's not about like, who am I like really? If I ask somebody, what are your strengths or who are you or what are you about? Some people will look at me like it's a trick question. And I think it's really important to understand that if we're going to be seen, whether it's professionally, personally, or in a relationship or in any way, that we don't want to lose ourselves in the identification of something outside of ourselves. So how do you help people set healthy boundaries to learn how to get comfortable with being seen in a way that is friendly to the person, to landing on that person's life? How do you help somebody do that?
So I love to do what's called the joy list. I love to sit down with somebody and ask them what brings them joy, and ask them why that brings them joy. So like last week I was working with a young girl and she said that she loved cats. And I was like, so why do cats bring you joy? And she's like, oh, because there's unconditional love. They sit on your lap, they purr. I'm like, okay, so what about them sitting on your lap and purring and giving you that unconditional love brings you joy? And she's like, because I don't have to answer to anybody. I can just be who I want to be and still get love back. And I'm like, okay, so what about getting love back brings you joy? And so we kept asking that. Every time she gave me an answer, kept asking. And really the bottom line was she loves cats because they remind her that it's okay to be herself, to love herself, and not have to report to anybody else. And so I love to start there and just break it down. And the funny thing is, Diane, when people work with me, I'm like, we're going to identify 10 things that bring you joy. Okay, Pearl, no problem. I'll get that. Let's do it right now. I'm like, yeah, no, it's going to take you 6 weeks to identify all 10. And so that's where we start. We start with the joy list because then from there we have to go to the no list because to get to your boundaries, you have to be able to, what's the no list? No to negative self-talk. No to things that don't align with your joy list. Know that something's going to drain your energy. And if you look at something, if you were to ask me to do something, Diane, and I had my joy list and that doesn't align with my joy list, it's like, Diane, thank you so much for asking and I just can't do it.
Right.
And that's it. That's all you have to say. Give a thank you. I appreciate you thinking of me. And it's just something I can't do.
Right. And it's like you said a little while ago, like I always laugh because the first few times I said no, it surprised me like you in the rock. And then I remember thinking, okay, Chicken Little is not running across the front yard. The sky is not falling. It is really okay. It's like when you were saying that, I have goosebumps now. Like I remember those days, and now things are so comfortable. So I think part of the message is that we can be seen and it might feel uncomfortable as we're kind of coming out of that veil and that kind of hiding in the shadows kind of thing. It might be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And sometimes we have to walk through that discomfort in order to actually be seen.
Yes.
So I always like to talk about boundaries with people, the inner boundaries and the outer boundaries. Outer boundaries being the obvious ones, how close we let people near us, emotional, mental, spiritual, things like that. But I also like to talk about inner boundaries, and that is how much of us we allow to show up in a situation. Because we don't need 100% of us in every situation that we're in all day long, right? And so how do you work with somebody who is an overgiver and you want to help them rein that in a little bit? What are like 2 or 3 tips? If somebody's listening to us and they're going, yeah, I can relate to that. I give all the time. Where could they start? A couple little, at home little homework projects before they actually reach out and get some assistance. What could they start on to help them with learning how to not overgive?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a hard question because sometimes it's hard to recognize, that what you're giving, is it really what I want? And so I think it goes back to joy list. You have to be able to ask yourself, is it going to take from my cup? Because everybody thinks it's a cliche and it's not a cliche. If you don't give from the overflow, you're always going to give too much to yourself. And so I think you have to start asking yourself, is it going to allow me to do something I love to do? Do I really like to do this? This thing that I'm being asked to do. And if it's a no, then it's just a no. It's like I can't do it. I'll give you an example. My mom, and you've heard me share this story before, I've divorced my parents because of their narcissist gaslighting behavior. My mom, since your retreat, has been in the hospital, and I've always told my brother, if you need me to show up for you to help her, I'm there for you. That's my boundary around that emotion, right? So when he called me and he's like, hey, just so you know, mom's in critical condition, possible critical condition. I just want to give you heads up. And I had to sit with that for a minute. And I'm like, okay, what do you need me to do for you? And he's like, well, right now, nothing. So I hung up with him. And of course, the little girl in me was like, my mommy's, who knows what's going to happen. And I sat there for a minute. And I asked myself, the boundaries you put around yourself, Pearl, can you live with them if something happens to her, right? How will you feel? And my husband was so great because he's watched me go through this journey with my parents. And I literally looked at him and I said, I feel like in my boundaries, I need to go and share with her that I don't want her to leave this earth to think that I don't love her, because I do love her. I don't like the things that she did and the way she behaved towards me. So I was like, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to show up for him because he's got to pack his house. I will share with her that I don't want you to leave here thinking I don't love you. And I don't appreciate the behavior you gave towards me, because I feel like I can still do that. That's within my boundaries. But the flip side of that, as an example, is my father was so bad that he was racist towards my oldest son. So I have the boundary, because Chuck asked, well, what if it was your dad? I'm like, oh, it's a hard no. I already knew right then. It was a hard no. You treated my son bad, not just me. It rippled downhill. So I think you have to ask yourself, is it a hard no? And if it is, then don't do it, right? It's a no. And I can't show up, because if you do, like even that volunteer thing, if I had shown up, I wasn't going to be myself. And that's not who they're asking to show up. So when they ask if it's going to be a hard no, and if you feel it immediately, it's like, don't even think about it. It's just a no. So I would say if it's going to fill your cup, if it's going to take from the overflow, yes. If it's a hard no, it's a no. And then if it just doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Right. I think that that's really important, to really pay attention to how something lands on us and how does it really feel. And I think that if you don't know how it feels yet, then don't answer yet. I think sometimes people think they have to answer right away because we are in this delayed, problems with delayed gratification. Got to answer right away. We don't have to answer right away. We can say, let me think about it. Let me pray about it. Let me do something in order to then make a decision or feel about it and see what really happens. Because I get asked to do things all the time. And sometimes it's an immediate yes, and sometimes it's a hard immediate no. And other times I'm like, well, let me ponder this for a moment, because it could be really cool or maybe not. Or how does it play into my overall situation of my life? So I think giving ourselves permission to wait if we need to and see how it feels is so important.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So, okay. So I got another one. They're just popping in my little popping in. So, I think there's people listening to us that believe that they're seen and they haven't lost themselves. And they're probably right. Well, what happens if when the people, and anybody really, starts overdoing it, becoming overwhelmed, becoming overstimulated, doing too much too fast, not giving themselves the self-care that they need, so that pretty soon the little tiny act of self-care really is more of recovery from the mess they created, not really self-care, right? And they start to notice that they're kind of losing themselves, even though once they didn't think they were lost. So how does somebody reel that back in? Like, okay, I was doing great and now I'm not doing so great because I let myself get off track. How do we get back on track?
Yeah. I think it's somewhat of like an audit, like ask yourself, like, am I overwhelmed? Am I stressed out? Am I sleeping at night? Am I not sleeping at night? If the answers are all no, like I'm overwhelmed, I'm not sleeping at night, then you are giving too much. And so then you have to kind of do that audit and say, where do I need to cut back? Where do I need to not show up? Where do I need to tell somebody I have to stop doing what I'm doing? And it's even if it's in relationships with your family, with your kids. I mean, oftentimes I love helping moms understand that they're CEO moms. They're not a stay-at-home mom. They're running a household. They're running a brick and mortar, and the little people in the house are part of their team. And so we don't have to show up and do all the things for them. We can teach them at a very young age how to put their clothes away. It's not going to be perfect, but we can teach them so that you could take some of those things off your plate. I think when you don't, and you don't do that audit, then you're going to always feel exhausted and you're going to start having regrets. And I'm just going to go there, Dianne. You know my story. I lost my oldest son, Matthew, almost 4 years ago. And I was so exhausted from showing up for my kids for so long that when I started the journey of that identity and destiny and started stepping into who I was, one of the bonuses was my boys started to see that I can be mom, but I can also still succeed at things. Like Matthew would see me speaking on stages and writing books and say, Mom, we should write a book about, our journey and about adoption and all of that stuff. And 2 days before he passed, we always hope our kids see us doing these things. We never know. Right. They don't always tell us, right?
Right.
So 2 days before he passed, he was in the garage and he literally threw a bottle of water. He asked me to throw him a bottle of water. I tossed it and he's like, Mom, not only you figured your stuff out, but you can throw something. And that was the affirmation to say to me, I see you, Mom. I see you doing things for you and I'm proud of you, And so if I had not done that, God bless the people who wanted to have the cup of teas with me, because if I had not done those cup of teas, I wouldn't be able to see the things that I need to see, being overwhelmed, showing up for everybody else, including those cup of teas, without asking me what I wanted. And so what I love to tell your listeners right now is that if tomorrow's not here for you, and all your friends and family can say what they saw you do for yourself, not what you did for them, not the laundry you did, not the job you did at work, not the coaching you did for your clients, just for you. If 10 people can't sit in a eulogy and say 10 different things about you, you definitely need a coach in your life because you're giving too much away of yourself. And so that's a big, big sign about take a step back, do an audit of your life and be like, where am I giving too much, and pull back. And here's the thing. I can tell you from being a mom who's grieving a son, people, they'll disappear. When you stop showing up, they're going to disappear. They tell you all the time, like with grief, like people will be right there and then all of a sudden they're not going to be there. And I didn't believe it, but it's very true. I have friends that don't come around because they think they don't know how to talk to me about my son. But you know me, I talk about my grief journey all the time. But there are people who are grieving that you're afraid to go what to say. And so you have to show up for you and know. It's kind of like we tell our kids. I remember telling our boys when they were in high school, you think hanging out with your friends is so great, but let me tell you, when you graduate high school, maybe 5 of them are going to be in your world. So think about who are the 5 people on your balcony. And if you're showing up for them, take other people off your balcony.
Right. And grief is like the most misunderstood emotion of all. And so many people are so uncomfortable, they don't know what to say or not. And so instead of saying, Pearl, I just don't know what to say to you, they run away or hide or avoid or something. And I see that a lot with lots of different people. I've had a few people on the show that have lost their husbands and lost other people. And we were talking about grief and people who are empaths and very sensitive. And that's one of the things is like everybody comes around. That's great. And then it all shifts back. Everybody goes about whatever. And it's not right or wrong, but it's an experience. And so I think the more we talk about it, which you do a great job of doing, because I think some of the things that you say about grief have to do with what can you do to take that grief and take the energy of it and create something healing and positive out of it, and kind of turn it on its head from something to sink you to something to raise you up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah, so, I love what you said too, because that's the best thing you can say to anybody grieving, no matter who or what they've lost, is I don't know what to say. Because my all friends go, I didn't know what to say. I go, that's all you have to say to me. I don't even know what to say. It's like, yeah. Right.
And often with any kind of experience, but grief particularly, there are no words. There isn't a word, and English is the worst language of all for that anyway, but there are no words. Sometimes it's not the word. Sometimes it's just showing up, or sometimes it's just like the little text, or sometimes it's the little phone call out of nowhere to just stay connected and feel like you still belong to the human race. And it doesn't have to be about Matthew or about the loss or about the problem. It can be just about, hey, I care about you.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. So every July, Dianne, I don't know if you've seen it the past couple of years, we do what's called make the call for Matt. So we encourage you to call, text, or call somebody, not text or email. Like pick up the phone and literally say, hey, Dianne, I haven't seen you in a while. I just wanted to say hi. Like even if you get their voicemail, because you don't know whose world you're going to touch.
Right. I do that. I didn't know that y'all did that. That's great. I do that a lot. I'll just call people out of nowhere and say stuff like that. And they're okay. I go, I didn't call for any reason. I just called to say hi. And then they sometimes don't know what to do about it. And I'm like, well, because I like to be connected to the people I say I care about. That's all.
Right.
You know, and then they laugh. Then they kind of relax, like, oh, okay, there really is nothing coming after. There's not another shoe that's about to drop. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So I know you all are loving listening to Pearl and everything. So if you go to the show notes, you will find her bio and you'll find out all the social media links and everything to follow her. And because she has lots of inspirational things out there, and you can get on her website and get on her mailing list and all of those things, because you want to have people in your corner that support you. And so she is a really great person for that, because she has stepped in and done things for myself and other friends of ours without any kind of qualm about it at all. She's a really good person. So you can learn a lot from her. So why don't you go check it out in the show notes and let her know that you heard her here and follow her around. It's kind of fun to stalk her. Anyway, so I do have a couple more things I would like to ask you about. When you look at your own personality, and like the adversity you've overcome and the different life experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, what are like the top 3 personal strengths or qualities about you that you think have really help push you through the lost part so that now you can be seen comfortably?
Oh, I think number 1 is definitely resilience. I think resilient is a huge one for me. If I wasn't here tomorrow, I think everybody could describe me as being resilient. So I think being resilient, I don't know what the word would be for not giving up. Like I'm always see the positive.
Tenacious.
Tenacious. That's the word. So tenacious. I don't give up. I don't give in. Tell me I can't do it and look out, I'm going after it, you know? So, my old boss in Virginia used to call me Pitbull. Don't mess with Pitbull Pearl when you want a loan closed, because she's going to get to it, you know? So, so that, and then I think the third word is that, that I'm just so loving, like caring and love would be to go together.
Yep. I think that's really good. You know, I had a job one time years ago and they used to call me the pit bull. They go, you only let go to regrip. I'm like, all right, great. Thanks a lot. And it was true. They were accurate about that. It was a large treatment center, like 100 and some clients. And I kept track of all of them. And so they could never figure out how I just knew stuff, but they didn't know how intuitive I was. And so that I would always get them. And they go, you're like a pit bull. You only let go to regrip. You're the only other person I've ever spoken to that has said out loud that people call them that. Yeah. So see, there's another commonality. That's hysterical. That's hysterical. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or bring up before I ask your final questions for the day?
Yeah, I think, we had the big shutdown during COVID and everything. And I think we've gotten, we've gotten back to this world of like, we've gotten so busy. And so I've been lately just like, we were talking about energy and what energy we're giving and not giving. And so I've been really stepping back into that word of no. If it's not lining up, don't do it. So I'd say, make sure that whatever you're about to step into, make sure it's a no. I mean, like before we started recording, I was sharing with you about my retreats and some thoughts I have about how they're going to look going forward after our 10th year this year. And I'm like, it's the more and more I say it out loud and the more and more it starts to feel comfortable. And so I feel like that energy is telling me, in my heart, it's telling you what to do. And it even comes down to relationships. I had somebody who I considered my dear friend, and when just before Matt passed or something had happened, and I realized her ethics did not line up with my ethics, and she was actually living with my husband and I had to ask her to leave, and that was really hard because I knew it would displace her. However, I knew in my heart that it was draining my energy, and I needed to make a change. So when it's heavy on your heart, don't ignore it. Like follow what your heart is telling you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one, because so many times people ignore that and then they look back and regret it every time. Totally. That's the case. And so with gifted and neurodivergent people, everything that we're talking about can sometimes feel overwhelming and extrapolates out because there's so many different ways of processing things. So if you're relating to anything we're talking about, please reach out to one of us because we're happy to talk to you about it and help you see the ways you can be seen effectively and authentically without losing yourself in all of it and holding your own sovereignty and your own agency. So make sure that you don't sit on the idea that it might be a really good idea to have somebody to talk to. So always keep that in the back of your mind, or maybe the front of your mind. So your final questions are, what is the most memorable food that you've ever eaten?
The most memorable food I've ever eaten. I would have to say it's the first time I ate sushi.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think the raw fish, eating raw fish, and the funny story behind that is that my old boss, if he was listening to me, he'd be like, stop calling me your old boss. He's a good friend of mine now. But Jim used to try to get me to eat sushi. I'm like, I'm not eating that stuff. That's just nasty. And so a couple months, like after he sort of gave up, I went out with one of my real estate agents and they're like, hey, try this. And I tried it and I've not gone back. I love raw sushi now.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love sushi too. Yes. Okay. And the final question is, if we were going to put a billboard up that the entire world was going to see with your unique quote on it from you for everyone to see, what would that billboard say?
Oh, you asked a tough one. A billboard up with me, what would it say?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think it would say, she said no, so she could finally say yes to her.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. She said no, so she could finally say yes to herself. I love that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. See? They're great questions and you get great answers. And so I want to encourage all of you to make sure that you have people in your corner, that no matter what it is, that you're not alone and that you can create a sense of belonging and community, because it's really hard for gifted people sometimes. So know that there are people in your corner. All you have to do is think it loud enough for us to say yes. So remember, everyone, to put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. And so go out there and let your light shine. And remember to say no so you can say yes to yourself. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne and Pearl saying, be well.
Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.